Hey, Jim Roman here, and welcome to another episode of the Jim Roman Show, where we talk about building a better business to build a better life. I want to welcome you in our third installment of our live event. Today, we're going to be talking about how to scale so you don't fail. I am super excited about this topic. One of the reasons I'm excited is I recently made a post onto Facebook, and I asked everyone to share their biggest challenges with their business right now, and I was super excited to get 3 pages of responses. So what I'd like to do today in this session, based on the challenges, I want to talk about how to scale so you do not fail. And we're going to be talking about topics like how to bring in business through marketing, networking, and selling, how to get the work done by hiring the right people and getting those people to perform, and then finishing up with creating raving fans by putting processes in place, workflows in place to make it all run smoothly so that hopefully you can build a better business to build a better life. So again, I want to welcome you, and let's get started. So I'm going to be reading from the notes that I got from the Facebook group. In the future, if you would not mind posting in the comments. For those of you, this is your first time joining us on the Jim Roman Show. Typically, we take 20 minutes of talking or training on a particular topic. And then the last 20 minutes is Q&A, questions and answers, where I go through the comments. So feel free, as we're doing this, comment below. I have my operations person, Dawn Whitestone, on the call with me, and she'll be posting things from time to time. To get started, I want to talk about a recent blog I just posted called The 9 Stages of Business Ownership. So if you were on our call last week, I talked about how a business owns you in the beginning stages of a business, where it owns you, you don't have a life. And then in the later stages of owning a business, you own it. And the goal is to get through the stages as quickly, as smoothly as you possibly can. So I promised that we were going to be posting a blog, and we have posted that blog. So I'll have Don post a link to Broke and Not Really Broke. It's a talk that I usually do where I talk about people that I thought there was only 2 stages of business, broke and really broke, but there's actually 9 stages of business ownership. And so I wrote an article on that, and you can see the link below. Or you can go to our website at jimromanonline.com and click on the blog section. We have a lot of articles that I'll reference from time to time throughout these shows and episodes that we have coming up. So let's jump into some of the challenges that people were facing. So I'm going to read them from my notes if you don't mind. I'll read those now. So one of the challenges was from a person who owns an automobile repair shop. And they stated in their email that because of the COVID situation, people's habits have changed this year. We can't rely on last year's trends. For us personally, now that people have been driving significantly less in the past 5 months, the vehicles aren't due for their service as soon as they normally would do this. Now, I have a response to several things with this, and I reached out to this person, asked for more specific details. And I should say that about the other challenges here today, I didn't get time to talk to everybody that commented in the Facebook group about their specific challenge. So I'm going to be answering most of these questions in 2 parts or 3 parts based on your challenges. If I don't address your particular challenge, again, please feel free to comment below, email me, or message me your specific details. In this particular case, again, it's an automobile repair shop. And again, people haven't been driving very much, and the trends have slowed. So my first response to any business during these difficult times where things have slowed down, my first answer is there's still business to be had, right? I promise you that other automobile repair shops, painting companies, staffing companies, all have slowed down. And I believe that those owners and managers of those companies' minds have slowed down. What do I mean by that? When this first hit us back in March, really hit us starting in March, I was talking to several people in my network, specifically realtors. And if I would talk to one realtor, they would say, not so well, another one, not so well. And it reminded me back in the 2008, 9/11 timeframe. Back in 9/11, I was in a networking group, and I was talking to a life insurance agent. Again, remember, 9/11 terrorist attack was horrible. One of the most horrible experiences most of us have had in our life. And I went up to the life insurance person, and I asked him, how's it going? And he goes, Jim, this has really destroyed my business. 9/11 is horrible, and it's destroyed my business. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I mean, I felt bad for the guy. A couple of days later, I was at another networking meet. I meet another life insurance agent, and I said to this person, I said, how's your business? He goes, this is a sad thing that this has happened, but my business is better than ever. And I was like, and I wasn't expecting that, because the other life insurance guy, same industry, same product and service, essentially, One business was down and one was up. And I was like, okay, how did that just happen? I started to analyze it. The person I first talked to, he tends to be a negative person, a sky is falling kind of person. And so I'm going to guess because he's negative and sort of down that he's going to repel business. With the other person that I talked to, he tends to be a positive person like me, and he attracts business. So I remember that back in March of this year when I was thinking about the real estate industry, who's going to have a negative mindset or a slowed down mindset versus there's an opportunity mindset. So I started calling my realtor friends and property manager friends around the country, asking them how it was going. And guess what? The people who were positive, business was up. Those people who were negative, business was down. So again, I'm not saying this is a simple answer to the solution to this particular auto repair business or a car sales business or any kind of business, but I think the step one in bringing in business, scaling your business so you don't fail in business, is to have a positive mindset, but know though, there are people still buying something. They're buying it from your competitors who hopefully have slowed their minds down. If you speed your mind up or get your positive mindset up, then you'll attract that kind of business. I really believe that. I really, really believe that. So my first response to all y'all out there is to think that there's business to be had. It just happens to be harder to get. That I would agree. I would agree with that. It's harder to get. And so there's market share to be had. So that's part one of the speaking to the businesses slow down situation. But in this particular case, what I would be doing if I were an auto repair business or business similar to that is I would be using this opportunity to create added value videos on how to maintain your vehicle, things like that. And the reason why I think of this is if you think about the car industry as a whole, specifically people who sell cars, when COVID first hit, it was interesting. I started seeing car ads. And I was like, why are you selling car ads during one of the most difficult times of our country? And we're not driving. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember in April, all the car ads. And what were the car ads doing then? In April, the car ads were, we're here with you. We want to be there for you. GE or General Motors or Chevrolet. And I thought that was fascinating. And what I loved about that, not necessarily they were trying to sell cars to people who were in COVID situation, but they changed their marketing approach to selling to serving. In other words, we're here with you. Call us if you need to. And that was about April. May, June, if you notice the ads change, and I used to be in advertising, so I think that's why I noticed this. And in those later months, April and May, what I noticed happening was that they were talking about if you need to, you're having difficulty making your car payments, give us a call. You need a car right now, but you can't afford it, give us a call. And I was like, that's fascinating. We don't have money, we're not driving, but if you need a car because your car is broken down or you're in a situation where you need one, give us a call. I'm like going, who's gonna call them? Now, if you look at it now, they're still doing car ads, but now they're going back to the normal sales. Do you need a car? We have special financing. And so I thought that was fascinating where of all the products you could be selling was a car that's being less driven, but they're still doing it. They're still advertising, they're still marketing, but they took a different approach. So again, I digress. Going back to this auto repair shop, if it were me, I would take a similar approach. I might be talking about, hey, during these times, you have extra time. Do you know this is a perfect time to get your tires rebalanced? It's time to get your tires rotated. It's time to get your car clean. One of the things that I find often still, people are still getting their cars clean. Maybe an auto repair person would pair up with a custom detail company and they co-market together. Because I've been on the road and people are still driving. The question is, are they your customers? And how do you get those customers? And so I do know this company in particular does do added value videos, which I love them doing it, but I would continue to do that. I would reach out to your customers, checking them out, which I know they do that. And so I love that they're doing this. The question I'd be asking myself, if I'm already making the carrying calls to my current customers, which I know they are doing, added value content, which I know they're doing, maybe they can do more. How can they educate other people, like things you can do to make your car run faster, smoother, better, longer, and things like that. And so that would be my response to the challenging times, is that there are people out there that are still getting their cars fixed, but by your competitors. How do you outmarket your competitors? Because they probably aren't doing it. Cool. So that, again, that's, again, my perspective in any industry for that matter. So hopefully you can take this and apply it to real estate, or you can apply this to property management. That I believe that if you continue to make caring calls to your connections, your contacts, and your clients, that is going to help you bring in business. I believe that if you can add value by creating content about did you knows, how to go about this. For example, I'm doing these live events. This is something that I rarely have ever done. In fact, this is probably my 5th live event on Facebook. This is the 3rd week of doing it, because I knew that my clients and my community and my contacts needed a positive sense of somebody listening to them. And so I wanted to make sure that I can at least be spreading joy during these difficult times. Cool. So that's challenge number 1 and number 2. Going down the next level of challenges that you're facing. So I hear a lot of times people are saying a couple of things. One, that people are not meeting in person still. And who knows when we're going to be meeting in person still. So I want to talk about this because I think this is very important. So for starters, there are still people networking out there. The question is, where are they networking and how are they networking? Here in Orlando, Florida, I'm a member of the Christian Chamber of Commerce, which is a wonderful organization. And what I love about them, other than the purpose, their mission, and their vision, is that they are continuing to meet virtually as well in person. And I think we should consider that. And when they're meeting in person, they're wearing masks, they're social distancing, they're being respectful. And they're also meeting online because some people are not comfortable yet in getting in person. And we want to respect both sides of it, whether you're comfortable or not comfortable, etc. And so if it were me, I would start to figure out who's still connecting, who's still networking, and get involved in those networks. If you're the one hosting the networking events, in my previous live event, I talked about how to make your Zoom call feel more like a live call. I think this is one of the things that people keep on saying, that we're getting zoomed out. I'm on as many Zooms as everybody else. I coach via Zoom. I attend meetings via Zoom, and I'm not getting zoomed out because why? I know I'm making a difference. And people are making a difference for me. And again, I tend to be more positive, but I would encourage you to consider is that a lot of it has to do with your attitude. It also has to do with who's running the meeting. And so I would encourage you to implement the Zoom meeting approaches or virtual meeting approaches that I've talked in the past, and I'll just revisit them for a moment. Is number 1, when you open up your Zoom meeting, talk about your purpose and passion. Welcome everybody. Just like I did today, I said, welcome to the Jim Roman Show, where we help you build a better business to build a better life. Today, we're going to be talking about how to scale so you don't fail. Again, I'm setting the precedent. I'm setting the tone for this call. Now, if I had breakout rooms, I would break us out into rooms to do quick introductions. Introductions like your name, your company, where you're originally from, and what do you enjoy most about what you do? Or your name, your company, where you're originally from, and there's one thing you're thankful for. These are 2 phenomenal approaches to making introductions in any virtual meeting, to include live meetings. So if you're not doing this in person or online, I highly recommend you encourage the people who are running your meetings, if you're the one doing it, to do this. It makes a big, big difference. The second thing in running meetings, whether it's live or online, is having an agenda. What is the agenda? As I established here today, I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, train for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to stop and then answer any comments or questions for the last 20 minutes. That way, if you only have 20 minutes to get some training, great. If you have additional 20 minutes to get the questions and answers, awesome. Regardless if you have 20 or 40 minutes, please comment below, share your challenges and or any comments to that effect. We'd love to be able to respond to those after this live event. So again, going back to these events, meeting in person and or online, we don't know what's going to happen. And so networking rules still apply. You only need 2, no more than 3 networks to build your business. Number 2, you only need 6 to 8 referral partners, ideally looking for those 3 key partners to help you build your business through referrals. The question I would be asking you, the audience here, is what networks are you working? Are you going deep in those networks, or are you going wide in those networks? I would be then trying to figure out who I can develop relationships with, check in with them, do the caring calls, see how they're doing. Keeping their spirits up lifts my spirits, and ultimately when this is over, we all will hopefully reap the rewards of building these relationships and making these caring calls. So in the meantime, I think it's important to follow the basic principles of networking, is finding 2, no more than 3 networks to build your network, finding the 6 to 8 referral partners that you check in with, care for, call and check in on them, and then ultimately work your networks. So eventually, when this is all over, we all benefit from that farming, if you will. So anything else about Zoom meetings? And then you finish up the meetings thanking everyone for coming, having them comment below, emailing you, message you, reach out to us. Things like that will make the biggest difference. Because I find, whether it's virtual or in-person meetings, I believe what makes a big difference for me is that I don't know who I'm going to make a difference for, and more important, just as important, who's going to make a difference for me. So when I started these 3 weeks ago, I didn't know who was going to get on the call. It was just something I felt I led to do. And I saw one of my clients get on there and he was just saying, Jim, I really need to hear this from you. I saw somebody else from a property management company saying, I really needed this shot in the arm. You're the best thing that happened to me in this difficult time today. And so those positive comments that make the biggest difference for me. So moving on to the next set of challenges. One of the challenges that you shared with me in your Facebook post, and again, if you have other challenges, message me, email me, or comment below, is hiring or finding people. Ooh, this is a big topic. I probably can do a whole live event on this. And so I'll do my best for those of you looking to hire, those who are considering hiring. Let's talk about that. For starters, I always say in all of my trainings that everyone in business should have an assistant or some type of assistance. Whether you own the business or you don't own the business, I think we all should have an assistant. Because I think there are certain tasks that we hate doing, that we shouldn't be doing, that drains us of energy. And so by getting that off our plate, lifts us up to be able to do other things. Another reason being is there are tasks that, for all intents and purposes, are $12 an hour, $13 an hour tasks. As a manager, as an owner of a company, $12 to $15 an hour is not the highest, best use of your time. And there are people out there right now looking for jobs at $12, $13, $15 an hour that would love to do things for you so that you can be freed up to do the things that you love to do. Perfect example, I was talking to a client yesterday and he happened to be walking in his neighborhood. Someone said, oh, so-and-so across the street is looking for a part-time job. She's a stay-at-home mom, single, looking for 10 hours a week. Do you have anything? And he says, yes, I do. He ended up hiring her as of, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. And he is elated about how much she's doing. She's now working 20 hours a week and that's it, because she's a single mom taking care of the family. In that 20 hours, she gets more done than some of the people who work for him 40 hours a week. So my point of that is, again, we should have an assistant of some sort at $12, $15 an hour. There are vendors and suppliers that I would highly recommend, even if it's assistance through software systems, to do that. And so again, if you don't have an assistant, get some type of assistance. Now, those who want an actual assistant or an employee, again, we can talk about that. I'm working on a hiring checklist. And so when that hiring checklist comes out, I'll send it to you. But when it comes to hiring, so often people share with me, it's hard to find good people. And a lot of times I don't disagree with that, but I think a lot of times the people who said they can't find good people have failed to vet out the wrong people. I think a lot of times you hire the wrong people, you then turn around and conclude there's no good people out there. And I think that's a cause and effect that we're not thinking about. So when it comes to hiring, I want a plan or a process before I hire them, during the hire process, and after. Why? I got this from the hotel chain, the Four Seasons. I was listening to one of my Business by the Book CD series, and in that series, they're talking about the Four Seasons, one of these 5-star hotels. And in this hotel, one of the employees went off on one of the guests. And the manager didn't say, you're fired. He said, let's find out how this happened. How did one of our employees end up going off on one of our guests in this fine hotel? And after they started to look into it, they asked themselves, was it our training? Is it where we got the person? Is it they're developing? I don't know the end result of that, but I do know the solution to that. And that was before every shift across the world, throughout every Four Seasons, they read the vision and mission of the organization. Again, in every shift around the world, they revisit the vision and mission with all the employees to remind them that customers come first, and so on and so on and so on. I thought that is powerful. And that led into the idea of having a process before you hire somebody, a process during the hiring process, and then after. What are you doing? What do I mean by that? Again, I don't want to go too much into detail because, again, I could probably do a live event or another webinar on that particular topic. But I would ask myself, do you have a process before you hire them? Do you have a vision and mission that you use to vet out the wrong people? 95% of people that I have interviewed over the last 15 years do not use their vision and mission to vet out the wrong people. They don't even use their vision and mission to attract the right people. Number two, do you have a job description designed or described in a way that attracts the right type of people? For example, there's a company called Muddy's Bakery. Muddy's Bakery was a bakery that I was first introduced to by one of the founders of Zingerman's Deli out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I was traveling the country looking for people who are putting their why to work. And Ari, with the Zingerman, suggested we go visit the owner of the bakery. And so we went to Muddy's Bakery, visited it, and as we were waiting to meet the owner, interesting thing, there was a post on the door, and it said, "Are you an energetic individual who likes having fun with people at 5 o'clock in the morning? Do you ooze enthusiasm?" Was the actual post on the door. And I was like, okay, are you excited and enthusiastic at 5 o'clock in the morning? Some people would say no. Bingo, that gets them out. And do you ooze excitement? Well, that will vet other people out, where other people would be attracted to being around great people, enthusiastic people, oozing excitement, and wanted to be around a fun environment. And they had a picture of them having fun at this bakery. That would attract the right type of people. So when it comes to finding the right people, the before process, I would ask, do you have a vision and mission that you use for vetting, a vision and mission for attracting? And do your job descriptions describe the environment in which they're going to come work for you? If you don't have that in place, maybe that's part of your problem. Now, I don't disagree that it's hard to find good people anytime. It's even hard to find people even more so now, but there are good people out there. Just like my client who just hired someone just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, for single mom, stay-at-home mom. So they're out there. We just need, it's a little bit harder to find. Let's talk about during the hiring process. Are you the only one who interviews them? Do you ask the typical hiring questions? Or do you ask behavioral questions to see how they behave in certain circumstances? For example, one of the great questions I learned from Kay Congdon with Marked by Excellence, she taught me so much about hiring, and I want to give her a lot of credit for the things that I'm sharing with you today, because before I didn't know this way of thinking. But one of the questions she taught me to tell people or ask people in the hiring process is, describe a time when you had a difficult situation and how you solved for that. Give me an example where you've done problem solving. Another thing she would ask you is define what you mean success is. Where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years from now? If someone says, I don't see myself anywhere 3 to 5 years from, that doesn't mean you shouldn't hire them. That doesn't mean that they think long term. And there's a lot of questions. I don't want to give them away. I highly recommend you seek out Kate Congdon with Marked by Excellence. She can give you some of these behavioral questions that, again, have been game changers, to the point where when I started first working with Kate 8 years ago, I was working with a contractor. He was about to hire a project manager. And as a coach, I said to him, I would love to have Kate vet this person before you hire them. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, but they're starting on Monday. I said, is there any way you can move their hiring date so Kate can vet them and question them? And he says, well, I am the owner. I guess I can. And so what she did was interview him on that Monday and asked him 2 questions. So number one is, how do you define success? And number 2, what do you think the question was what is the one habit that's getting in the way of your success? And he says, well, people don't listen to me. And she said, do you think being a project manager and having a problem that people don't listen to you was going to be an issue? And I'm told, he just shrugged. He went, yeah, I guess so. And she then, as I recall, said, would you like me to help you find another job? And he goes, please, would you do that? In other words, this person was about to hire this person for a good amount of money, and this guy was going to be a project manager, and his biggest challenge was people don't listen to him. This is a perfect example of not having the right questions, the right process to vet out the wrong people. And then finally in the hiring process is after you hire them. Again, I'm not saying it's difficult to find these type of people, but we could probably talk about where to find them in a different episode, but it's after the hiring part that I want to talk about. And after the hiring part is, what are you doing to develop them? Are you the type of person who hires somebody and sets them and forgets them? A great book on that is The Leadership and the 1-Minute Manager. Leadership and the 1-Minute Manager is probably one of the best books that I've ever read on developing people. This was introduced to me by Dan Elzer from the training company. And Dan recommended this book, and I read it within, I think, a week, really, really quickly. And what Dan talked to me about is that when you bring somebody on board, you have to mentor them and develop them different ways if they've been with you for 1 month, 1 year, or 10 years. And the book goes into that. When you hire somebody, you have to handhold the people in the beginning till they start getting confidence, and then hold their hand less until they become competent. And then once they're confident and competent, then you just got to continue to pat them on the back so they keep up that momentum. And then ultimately, when you can set them and forget them, don't forget them, continue to acknowledge them, reward them, and appreciate them so that they can maintain that positive attitude. And so hopefully this was helpful to you. Again, if I were to sum up this segment of our Scale So You Don't Fail live event, is when it comes to hiring, I highly recommend everyone get an assistant, even if it's 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week. There are things that you should not be doing. There are things that you hate to do. Why not give it to somebody who would love to do that? From accounting to scheduling to client care notes to whatever that might be, I highly recommend you consider that. In fact, if you go to my blog, we have several articles about letting go to grow. We have articles on my team that I talked about and how they help me let go to grow and go to other levels. So please check out that blog article as well. So I want to be responsible for our time. We're now 26 past the hour. And I want to make sure I've covered most of the challenges. Again, I plan on reaching each out to every one of you. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to pick one more challenge and then I'll go into the questions and comments. If you do have to leave, thank you for coming. Feel free to comment below. So the last thing that I want to talk about is processes, creating raving fans. So several of you have said that you have planning that you're doing. Several of you say you want to put workflows into place. I love these types of things. And so that's about creating raving fans. What's creating raving fans? So as I mentioned in the beginning of this live event, I just wrote an article on the 9 stages. You can check it out on our blog where it talks about being broke or really broke and how the stages of business ownership own you in the beginning stages and you own it in the end. And part of the ending part and how you can free yourself up from the business is putting people in place, which we talked about just a little bit, and processes in place. And one of the things that I love to do is putting processes in place is to flow out my work from A to Z. I was first introduced to this concept by Chuck Blakeman with the Crankset Group out of Colorado. Chuck was talking about process mapping and mapping out your processes. And he shared with me an example of a landscaping company that he was working with where he mapped out from A to Z their whole workflow. And I got to tell you, it was another game changer for me because I used to manage most of my stuff in my head. And if you know my favorite quotes, one of my favorite quotes is Einstein is quoted saying, your brain is for thinking, not for storing. Your brain is for thinking, not for storing. When Chuck introduced me to the workflow process and he showed me how this landscaping company worked, all of a sudden, all of the knowledge I had for the 20 years of being in business synced up. It just almost fell into place. An example of that, this workflow that he talks about, and you can do this at any size company, whether you're in sales, in operations, in customer experience, mapping out these processes can make a big difference for letting go to grow, bringing on the right people to take over some of the work that you need to get done. And so this map, I should wish I had in front of me. I don't, but I'll make sure I have it for our next episode. The map process went, you had marketing. From marketing, you get inquiry. From inquiry box, it went over to a sales call. From the sales call, it went into a proposal. The proposal went to an on-site meeting. Then it closed. Then it was set up client folder. Then it went site visit again, start the work, order the supplies, halfway through the project, end of the project, close out the contract, follow up with a thank you note to the customer, put them into our marketing campaign. And all of a sudden, all of these thoughts and ideas that I had about business started to go in sync. It just totally made sense. So whether I'm working with a landscaping company now, an IT company tomorrow, or a property management company in the future, workflow simply is the same for all of them. The operation side changes up a little bit. And so I would highly recommend that. There are books out on there. I don't have any in front of me. I have one on process mapping that I found on Amazon, but there's no one that stands to the forefront other than E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Michael Gerber talks about this a little bit, about creating an organizational structure in your business. I think that's part of the hiring process, but also creating organizational structure so that it acts like a franchise, so that the first customer has the exact same experience as the 1,000 customer. If you can get to that level, I believe that your business will not only scale, but you'll be able to be free from it at the same time. So that concludes the training piece of the puzzle today. Now what I'd like to do is go through the comments. Before I do that, I can't thank you. Any of these have to go. I want to just thank you for being on our 3rd episode of the live event of Building a Better Business to Build a Better Life. Hopefully you're enjoying that. In the future, we're going to be coming up with a service or a texting service where I can capture your challenges and then reply back to you directly. For example, one of the things that a person asked me about that they had a challenge with was scaling. Well, I needed to know a little bit more about their scaling issue. Is it a people piece, which I believe it is, but I also believe it's a process piece. So I wasn't able to go into more specifics as to this person's challenge. And so in the future, I want to figure out a way to talk to you ahead of time, as well as I might, if you're interested, doing a live with you. In other words, just like a talk show. You dial in, you tell me your challenge, I solve the challenge on the spot, and we move on to the next caller. or the next challenge. So those are just some of the things that we covered today. Hopefully you found this of value. Now I'm going to jump into the comments and see what you have talked about. So where are my comments? Comments. Okay, I might need Don to come in here and talk to me about the comments. I do see Colin's stuff in there. So where are some of the comments, Don, if you wouldn't mind sharing those with me? Okay, got it. Cool. So as we finish up, I just want to make sure. Awesome, great, good to see you. Oh, there is 2 other comments. So I'll finish up with these last 2 thoughts. That is getting sales from Facebook. So Facebook comes up a lot of times. How do I get business from my social media? And then how do I get people to attend my event? This is a big topic, probably more than I have time for. So let's talk about the big topic. So what can you do if you are trying to sell on Facebook or sell in social media? I want you to remember the know, like, and trust factor. When you're trying to sell anyone, for that matter, whether it's in social media, your Facebook group, or to a live event, you want to get known first, you want to get liked second, and then you want to get trusted second. Another way of saying that is you want to give free before you charge a fee for that. In other words, you want to give enough value. Say you have a $1,000 product you want to sell. A lot of times you need to show value in that $1,000 product before anybody's going to buy. And if they don't buy from you at first, you want to be able to give value beyond that sale or that prospecting appointment or that proposal so that they can see value. And especially when it comes to social media, the more that you can give free, then eventually you can sell a fee. So I'd be asking you, if you're trying to sell something online or sell a virtual event, what are you selling? Let's talk about the virtual event. So I recently had a virtual event where I failed to sell people on why a virtual event is important to them. Now, that being said, I recently attended a virtual event on how to put on virtual events. And guess what they did prior to the virtual event? Talk about the importance of a virtual event, why it's the next best thing, why this is a great way to counter COVID. And they went on and on and on about why having a virtual event was important about having a virtual event, that I ended up going to their virtual event. Well, when I did my virtual event, I didn't tell people why I was doing the virtual event, why now versus later, and I failed to give that value up front. I also failed to talk about what I would be covering in the virtual event, like bringing a business, creating raving fans, getting the work done, and hinting towards giving little nuggets of value before I sold them on the actual event itself. So in closing, in anything that you want to sell, it's always coming to know, liking, and trusting. When it comes to networking, it's know, liking, and trusting. And getting your customers to buy back from you is getting to know you again, liking you again, and trusting you again. And I think that applies to anything that we're trying to do when building a community or building a business. So I hope that you enjoyed this live event. Hopefully you'll join us next week when we'll go live again. More details on what we'll be talking about, but continue to send us your challenges, your comments, and your questions so that we can help you build a better business to build a better life. Again, I'm Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we grow.